Wonderful to see you.
Thank you. All right. Well, I'm very excited to be here. I think it's a privilege to have an opportunity to talk to all of you guys because I think there's a huge opportunity for a company like ours that makes creative consumer experiences. I still choke on the word content, but that builds products for consumers to collaborate with people who run the networks and build the hardware to create amazing new experiences for users that can drive this whole gigantic industry forward. I'm talking about augmented reality. So today I want to cover three things with you guys. I want to talk a little bit first about sort of the secret history of Pokemon Go and where it came from. And then I want to walk through some very specific examples of how we're working with operators around the world today to take advantage of this, to advance the strategic goals of operators and of companies like ourselves in augmented reality. And then finally, I want to talk a little bit about what we see coming next and where some future opportunities are. So in terms of the secret history of Pokemon Go, I want to ask you guys to kind of flash back to last summer. And scenes like this one were playing out in various places around the world. This is in Taiwan. But you may have seen it in your city. Large crowds of people carrying their phone. What are all these people doing? Oh, they're chasing Pokemon. So some of you at the time might have asked, who made this thing? Like, what's going on? What are they trying to do? So I want to talk a little bit about why we made it. And I think it may shed some light into what we're planning to do in the future. Pokemon Go was really born in a lot of ways out of Google Maps. A lot of the team came out of Google Maps. I personally came to Google back in 2004 when they acquired a company I helped to start called Keyhole, which made the Google Earth technology. But that's where we started. We started in Google in 2015. We actually spun out and became an independent company. We started a group inside of Google, kind of ran it as a separate company. It was called Niantic. And it was started based partly on this inspiration. As a parent, like many of you have kids, maybe you struggle with this as well, is screen time. We in the computer, entertainment, video game industry, we've created these experiences which are so compelling. Our kids want to use them all the time. And this, on the left there, you see the kids making this beautiful world in Minecraft while it's a beautiful sunny day outside. And like many of you, like I'm trying to get my kids to go outside. So we conceived of this idea of, hey, let's use mobile technology and the stuff that's coming next. We knew about projects within Google, Google Glass, wearable computing projects. Let's use this stuff to try to build experiences that are going to be fun and are going to motivate people to go outside, that are just going to be healthy, wholesome play experiences. We set out three kind of guidelines for ourselves. We said we wanted to be about exploration and discovery of new places. That was a sort of Google Maps part of ourselves talking. We wanted to be about exercise, about actually encouraging kids to be active and adults to be active, to get more steps in, to be more healthy. And third, we wanted to be about social, about people doing things together, not just being social online through something like a Facebook or Instagram, but actually to be social in real life and have fun together in real life. And we thought technology could actually maybe achieve some of that. So we started out to build some experiments to kind of test this idea out. The first of those experiments, I don't know if you guys have heard of it, was a game called Ingress. It launched back in 2012. It, like Pokemon Go, is an augmented reality game. It's about two factions battling for the control of the world. It has a sort of sci-fi theme to it, a J.J. Abrams kind of theme. We launched it. We didn't really know what was going to happen, and we were really surprised at some of the behaviors that ensued, at the success it had. We thought that we were going to appeal to primarily gamers. You know, we're thinking males in their 20s, people that play video games. We found people in all walks of life and all ages playing this game. Notable example, like moms playing while they're pushing their baby in the baby carriage in the park. We saw people do extreme things that we never expected. People chartering helicopters to go capture these locations in the game. It's played through the phone with GPS. You have to go after specific places in the world. Things like commercial airline pilots that were ferrying digital objects around. They're flying the plane commercially, but they're taking their cell phone and they're actually moving these digital goods valuable in the game from continent to continent. You know, almost like some sort of illicit substance being transported, but it's perfectly legal. We saw the game extend to the far corners of the world. People actually playing in Antarctica, at the bases in Antarctica, in far eastern Siberia, chasing for control at various places in the game. The other thing that kind of surprised us was the reaction that people had on a kind of emotional level. People started getting tattoos of the two factions of the game, permanent tattoos, not temporary tattoos. And mind you, we were still in beta at the time, so everything was still in flux. These logos could have changed. But we began to ask ourselves, you know, what's motivating people to do this? And it really motivated us to dig into the response that people were having to getting more exercise, getting outside, being more active, and really at the core of it, having an opportunity to socially go out and do something fun with other people and to meet new people through the game. Of course, some of those relationships, friendships formed. In some cases, people began to date. Some of those people got married. And about a year later, the inevitable happened. Some of those people had babies. So inspired by the early kind of social adoption that we saw, we began to organize events. And this became a core part of our strategy to evangelize this type of game around the world. These started very small, with a few dozen people. They grew to a few hundred people. We started having them in Asia, in Europe, North and South America. They grew into the thousands of people. They just got bigger and bigger over time. This is seen from Tokyo last summer. This was just before the launch of Pokemon Go. Ingress, this was our largest Ingress event ever, over 10,000 people. So the players of this game really became this kind of global social tribe. So it's based on all of these learnings that we began our next project, Pokemon Go. And that was the inspiration for it. Ingress has become a cult hit around the world. It's played in over 200 countries, over 20 million downloads. It's got a rabid fan base that plays on average once per day. And collectively, players playing the game have gotten outside. They have walked. They've collectively walked over 344 million kilometers. This is roughly the distance from Earth to Mars. So there were skeptics early on who said people never get off the couch to play a game. Gamers are lazy. They just want to drink big sodas and kick back and play video games. That proved to be not true. So Pokemon Go, if you're not familiar with it, a pretty simple concept. Pokemon inhabit the real world. You have to go out and find them using your smartphone. They live in different places and different habitats. And once you have them, you can fight over gems and with one of the teams, try to control territory around the world. So in the event that you haven't yet played Pokemon Go, there's a 30-second video that just kind of shows how the game works. So Pokemon Go launched last summer, and it was probably the worst job of forecasting in my career. The tiny orange line at the bottom of the slide was our predicted level of traffic for the game. This is a measure of transactions on our server, but think of it as a proxy for user activity in the game. The red line, which is a little bit higher, was our worst case. Like, this is the most that we're going to consume. This is the most we need to provision for on the back end to support the game. And of course, the green line is what actually happened. And we blew through our quotas within a day or two, and it just spiraled seemingly out of control after that. And it's a real testament to the strength of the engineering team, and to our friends at Google. We were hosted on Google Cloud. They were able to provision this thing and keep it going as we rolled it out basically around the world over the next 60 days. We were heartened to see people respond to the game in many of the same ways that they had responded to Ingress, but on a larger scale. So, for example, we saw people begin to recognize the value in a game that gets kids outside and gets people to be active and moving. It's a real problem in our society right now. I was delighted to see summer camps embrace Pokemon Go. Camps were formed specifically for kids. It's something they were interested in as a way to motivate those kids to get outside and get activity. The game is built around focusing players on certain locations in the real world. That's the discovery part of the game, just like Ingress. So those places are typically historic sites or artwork, museums, and libraries. So it was really cool to see places like libraries that are, they're kind of hungry for new customers, right? I mean, people don't go to libraries as much as they used to. So we saw libraries across the United States embrace Pokemon Go and use it as a way to promote kids to come inside and hopefully maybe read a little bit more. We saw lots of other businesses embrace it in a similar fashion, zoos, among others. The walking part worked with Pokemon Go just like it had worked with Ingress. In the case of Pokemon Go, people, as of December, collectively have walked 8.7 billion kilometers. So that is the distance from Earth. It's more than the distance from Earth to Pluto, at Pluto's furthest part, furthest distance from planet Earth. So really just a massive amount of movement around the world. And to date, 88 billion Pokemon have been caught. Luckily, they're not endangered. There are plenty more. We just keep making them. So how's this relevant to people in the business of running networks and building the hardware that supports those networks? I think Pokemon Go is kind of unique in being a game that was really built to be native to this world. It really is designed to fully exploit the capabilities of the handset and the capabilities of the network. And I think that makes it a pretty interesting product in terms of synergies between what we're doing and what operators are doing. It really demands advanced smartphone devices and robust networks. It rewards high-capacity data services. You have to be connected when you're playing the game wherever you are. It rewards network coverage. You want to capture the Pokemon in the parks. You've got to have coverage there. It depends heavily on advanced location services and mapping. There's room for improvement there. And we rely on things like direct carrier billing for the financial underpinnings of this. And I think there are opportunities, and you'll see in just a minute in some of the examples I'm going to give, of how we're working with operators in each of these areas to drive demand for these services, but importantly, to acquire new customers and to decrease churn and hang on to the customers the carriers have. So what does it look like from an infrastructure point of view when you design something like this and roll it out and it goes viral around the world? Just a couple of interesting data points. 650 million downloads, 44,000 plus terabytes of data transferred back and forth in the course of playing the game, about 44 petabytes of data. So we're really utilizing that amazing network that you guys have built. There's another thing that we built into the product. I think it's kind of novel, and people have been taking advantage of it in some very creative ways. And that's this idea of sponsored locations. So I mentioned that the primary places that you visit, you acquire items, where you find Pokemon, most of those are organic, and we've tried to pick culturally interesting places around the world. In fact, we used our players in Ingress to help source that database. Again, of landmarks, historic sites, libraries, museums, and so on. But we have allowed a select number of businesses to sponsor their locations in the game. That means there's an organic attraction within the game for users to go to these locations, for users to cluster at these places. And in many ways, that's the holy grail of retail business, is foot traffic, bringing people to the front door. To date, We've brought over 35,000 of these locations live around the world, and we've done that with many of our operator partners, and we'll talk more specifically about that. And we've driven over 500 million visits to date to these sponsored locations. So to give you a specific example of what that looks like, this is a partnership that we have with Starbucks. We've activated more than 13,000 Starbucks locations across the United States. So in addition to the attraction of getting people to the store because of the Pokemon they can capture there and the items that they can acquire, Starbucks has gone even further, and they've included an offer that shows up within the game itself for a custom beverage, the Pokemon Go Frappuccino. So when you're playing the game, you're near a Starbucks, you see the offer for the Pokemon Go Frappuccino, and you can go to the barista and order it off the secret menu. An example of a carrier that's implemented this, we partnered with Jio in India, a very innovative carrier there that's disrupting that market. To date, we've activated about 2,000 locations across the Indian subcontinent, and there will be a total of about 9,000 locations that ultimately get activated. So basically, anywhere that you can buy a top-up card, where you can engage in a service plan, those are all in the game. They light up on the map, and users are organically attracted to it, and they see the Geo brand and a rotating offer within the game as they're near these locations. An example of another kind of partnership, just to show what you can do with a product like this. This is Unibuy. They operate a number of high-end retail destinations across Europe. So we've partnered with them. So within these shopping malls, largely, we've activated game locations, draws users to these locations, and then in addition to that, they've programmed events, special events promoted out to the community, to families, kids, which draw thousands of users to these specific events within the game. Focusing on another carrier, Globe in the Philippines. I think some of those folks may be in the audience today. I've been really excited to work with them. I've been very creative in thinking about how to leverage AR gaming, again, to acquire users, reduce churn. So we had a great launch event with them there in Manila. And they've actually transformed their stores. You feel like you're literally walking into Pokemon Go when you walk into their stores across the country. So you'll see characters from the game, you'll see signage, video displays, and it really connects with the virtual, which is appearing in the game, and then you have the physical reality of the store. And then on top of that, you have promotions that they're creating around special pricing plans that may involve free access to Pokemon Go or special pricing for access to the game and with certain packages. Another example would be Sprint in the United States. They're our US operator partner. So we have, with them, activated, at this point, more than 10,000 locations. They've gone a step further than just being present in the game as a way to draw users in. They've actually used lures, which are a virtual item in the game. You can add it to a location. So they, on occasions, add those to their stores. It spews out confetti. It makes it look like a very attractive location within the game. It draws extra Pokemon and just is an extra incentive for users to visit these locations. Sprint has also rolled out the Trainer Reward Program as a way to take these newly acquired users and retain them by creating special incentives and to communicate with the Pokemon Go users that are now Sprint subscribers. And then, the final example of Sprint is also transforming the physical store to turn it into kind of a virtual playground. So to make it a place that ties together this virtual game and the real world, they've added things like branded battery chargers within the store. Pokemon Go does use a little bit of battery when you're playing it, especially for long periods of time. So you can go into one of these Pokemon Go chargers, charge up, maybe check out a new handset, maybe talk to a Sprint rep about a better data plan. So those are all things that we're already doing with a certain set of carriers around the world. The final thing that I want to touch on is opportunities for the future. So there are several areas where I think there's a huge opportunity for deeper collaboration. Location technology. What we have today works, but it's imperfect in terms of GPS and triangulation. Things such as beacons, which various people have tried to roll out in various forms, are extremely interesting. And the demand from a game like Pokemon Go or future games that we offer, we think can help create the incentive and the economic underpinning to fully roll out these networks of beacons and improve location technologies across a range of services. Wearable and AR devices. So we launched support for Apple Watch in December. We actually launched our own wearable device with Nintendo, the Pokemon Go Plus. The games that we're building are built for augmented reality. We're going to take advantage of the wearables that exist today while we wait and work with partners to bring to market AR glasses and other forms of advanced AR technology. But we think the products that we're building can be the thing that creates a demand for AR and drives a whole new cycle of demand within the industry. Direct carrier billing, we feel like we've only scratched the surface there. We feel like there are great synergies between the product that we offer and the goals of operators around the world. We've put together programs that create incentives for Pokemon Go fans and users of the game to sign up for DCB. And that's something that we're interested in expanding in more markets. And finally, with Pokemon Go, we're only getting started with the game. We just launched our first major update of 2017. We introduced 80 new Pokemon into the game. There are hundreds of Pokemon that exist within the Pokemon universe. We launched new apparel for trainers. And we have 3 major new releases for Pokemon Go mapped out for this year. So Pokemon Go we expect to continue to be a healthy and growing product over many years. But we're also working on a number of new AR gaming projects. And each of those represents an opportunity to partner in some of the ways that I've described. So we'll be launching a new version of our original game, Ingress, later this year. And we have some other projects that, unfortunately, I can't talk about today, but we'll be talking about later this year. They'll be coming down the pipe. So tons of opportunity, I think, for content creators to partner with the industry, with operators and hardware manufacturers on the networking side to create really innovative experiences that can have a significant impact on your business. So that's it from me. If you haven't yet tried Pokemon Go, we made it really easy for you. We actually set up Pokestops and gyms throughout the hall. So on your way out, feel free to try the game, download it, and give it a try if you haven't already. Thank you.
John, Hank, wonderful presentation. I'm sure the addicts among you know very well that there are plenty of Pokemon to go out and capture as you do so in the halls. With that, a very happy Tuesday evening to you all from Mobile World Congress. Enjoy your evenings, go get a copper to carver, and thank you very much for your interest.